Hello and welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This is going to be a 1 versus 1 game on the map Northern Isles. And this is going to be me doing a little bit of a weird strategy. It is basically half of a 2v2 strategy that I used to do with my friend Jake. The opening build is slightly different than the way we used to do it because in twos, the opponents could potentially sort of team up and hit a single base relatively early, and obviously they have the potential to have two armies as opposed to one, which means they can show up with a lot more DPS on a single base. So if if you're sort of trying to tech with some towers or tech without towers or whatever, the risk is there that you can get rushed, and a lot of people were rushing, especially with certain kinds of heroes like a Farseer Archmage, for example. They can come in there with a lot of summons. But anyways, the first part of the strategy is basically to get a TC, to get a War Mill. We got it much earlier in our 2v2 builds, but to get a War Mill relatively soon because you want to start making towers, because you will be skipping barracks at least for a while. And with one of us in the build would actually make a barracks in the middle of our tech to tier 2. We would make 2 barracks and then have the potential to go for mass demolishers, which sounds really goofy, but it's just part of the strategy, right? Because one of us would be trying to dive the opponent's base with like 5 demolishers or so and an attack upgrade, trying to knock somebody's hull out, their tech out, stuff like that. Meanwhile, the other player starts with multiple Wind Riders, and then they would go into Raiders typically. Because if you mass too many Wind Riders, generally they can just counter that pretty hard. And you really just want them for creeping, right? Because the sort of next goal besides early game TC harass with, both players getting like heal salves and clarity potions, and generally also grabbing a speed scroll, is sort of base build is very important. And then like denying the opponent creeps if you can, putting damage on either their hero units or going for their economy, right? It really depends on what sort of vulnerabilities that you have that they have that you can see. So I'm going to scout towards the center. You notice my base is very, I've got sort of a wall of buildings in front of the watchtowers, blocking them out. This one in the front, or actually these 2 in the front, currently, are a little bit exposed, but I do see where he's at. So instead of building like this one behind the War Mill, I'm going to build it sort of under the town hall, more towards the front. This was a really juicy shockwave. This was a perfect setup for shockwave. 1, 2, 3. Let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of the 10 lumber workers hit. Now, I think you can hit actually maybe 11 or 12 targets. Is the cap for shockwave. It can be units, heroes, buildings on the ground, mechanical targets even. And I think it does 75 damage, something like that. So yeah, it's something, I want to say it's like 900 damage if you hit the max number of targets. But anyways, you can see I've done quite a lot of damage with only a single shockwave. And he's got a Tinker. The Tinker is very bad for sort of actually fending this off. I got another pretty decent one. Not quite as good as the first one, but he sort of was moving stuff around. And I hit 5 of them, right? So these 5 are basically going to be at 75 health. Quite low. He does not have an arcane tower, no guard tower. Not even upgrading one right now. And also, really no worries for me. I've got a clarity potion, 57 mana, a heal salve. Actually, did I buy a speed scroll? I guess I didn't buy a speed scroll before I left, as it were. But anyways, I'm doing quite a nice bit of damage. Now he's finally spreading them out like he needs to, but he's already taken quite a lot of damage. His next shockwave is actually going to be really bad. There's like, he's got some workers that are like coming from the lumber line over here. I should have just hunted these down, the ones that I hit twice, right? Because I do see that he's building an arcane vault, a region scroll that I don't get in there and sort of knock off the units with some sort of damage. See, this is the bad. I should not have. I'd hit 2 out of these 3. but he sort of moved them and I didn't adjust, right? So, unfortunate. He does have his base open enough so I can go in there and take some shots at these. He's running them all over the place, right? So he's lost a lot of lumber. And then that's a really good one, too. I catch the gold workers. I catch some of the footies. And then I'm like, okay, I don't have hardly any mana. I could TP, but it's not really going to save me all that much time to TP, wait for him to, land, and then use your clarity potions, blah, blah, blah. I'd rather just let him die, spend the 170 gold. Yeah, it gives him some experience, but he hasn't crept anything so far. It's going to be 100 experience, but I'm going to come up with full health and 100 mana. And I'll still have my town portal, which is nice. So generally the rule of thumb, most of the time in most game types, is if your hero is level 1, especially if you don't have any kind of other army to worry about getting caught in the base or, whatever, you just want to let your hero die. He revives real fast. It's really cheap to revive him. And, especially if it has no mana and, a lot of his health is gone. Yeah, I could use a heal salve and clarity potions to deal with that, but I'd rather just get him back at 100 mana and then use a clarity potion, and then his health would be full, so I wouldn't have to use, any charges of heal salve. And also the town portal is the big deal. The town portal, instead of having to spend 300, I think it's 325 gold. I think they changed it, but 325 gold to rebuy that. Also my tech wasn't finished, so I literally have to sit there and wait. I don't think there's one available at the shop yet either. Maybe so at the neutral shop. Now here's going to make a massive mistake. He's going to creep this. Creeping this is not really the mistake, though, because he had time to do it. He used militia. I don't think he actually lost anything creeping this. He did take a bunch of damage on the footies. These two footies nearly dead if I just run into him from any direction. With even the TC, but basically with any hero, it's likely that I just kill both of those footies, Footman. But the bigger mistake is I killed 3 peasants over here, right? So 3 of his workers, lumber harvest workers, are done. Militia creeping this takes, a fair amount of time away from the workers harvesting lumber. There are 2 really damaged peasants in his main, so I can potentially get those kills maybe as well. But this is going to leave these peasants, his hero is not really good for like defending this, right, for holding it. If I just come over here and happen to scout it, which again, this is very common. I see this green camp's not taken, I see this one's not taken. I don't know about over here, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go check the expo, right? If he's over here creeping this and gets it done, it's annoying, but it's like, what can I, yeah, I can harass him, maybe get some kills or whatever, but the bigger issue is if he would have gets this crept and towered, there's like a window where it's going to be really hard for me to harass that. And if I go Wind Riders and he masses up towers here, like I said, it's going to, depending on how many towers he makes and the sort of positioning of them, it'll be really tough for me to harass this with Wind Riders. And he may or may not, probably will have an experience lead on me. If he just from creeping this, right? I got some kills over here, not enough though, right? And I can't really creep anything else really quickly or efficiently relative to his summon hero. The Tinker actually can creep really, really effectively if you do it right. I think he's going to end up losing. I don't know if he loses footage here. It looks like he probably will. Oh, 3 of them. Look, he's taking all this damage on the footies, and he takes a ton of damage. I don't know if what he's paying close attention to. It doesn't look like he's even microing these peasants. So these peasants, he doesn't run some of them. They're all lined up perfectly right by the scout tower. So I can hit the scout tower. I'm not sure if I hit the town hall or not. I know I did with that one. But yeah, I clean these up very quickly, very easily. And I think I attacked one way too low. Like, I attacked it where it was way below 75 health. And I kept hitting it a couple of times or something. So a couple of swings were probably wasted there. But anyways, almost have, with the clarity potion, I'm going to quickly have another shockwave. I pull back. I want to catch, I see a damaged footy. I don't know if I hit it or not, but I definitely got these peasants. He crept this, and he took so much damage on the shredder. This is a massive mistake too, right? Like, I understand using that to creep, right? It's extra damage. You can take a couple of swings, but you really do not want to let it get, you can repair it, right? But the risk is if you get caught here creeping or like right now, he needed to keep that well away from my TC, because this is very important for his build. He just lost 5 workers. So already he's lost 8 workers. He's got 3 more that are damaged here. He's got 2 in his main going on the goal line that are really damaged. A third one on the goal line that is like half health. And look at his lumber situation. If this shredder gets killed, his lumber situation is going to be dire, right? He's literally sitting on, it's 100 lumber that just to buy this thing, right? And 375 gold. He repairs it a little bit, but he didn't block it off. He could have built a farm if he was quicker. But he had to let the shredder get in first. So he did have to be a little bit quick to stop that from happening. But he could have. He could have definitely done it and saved it. I'm level 2 now, so I'm like, oh, I'm nowhere near getting another shockwave. So this damage that I'm taking is just to delay his economy a little bit and hit this pocket factory. I could have probably stayed and maybe killed it. Or actually, the smart move, instead of trying to get that experience, which was I don't know how much experience you get for that, but it's more than a peasant, I'm pretty sure. But the bigger thing I should have done, well, there was another militia hitting me, right, that was damaged. So killing one more peasant, I think, would have been even a bigger problem, because that's, like I said, even one more lumber worker or gold worker, depending on how many peasants were in his main, that was going to go down. He does it again with the shredder. Once again, he lets it take a bunch of damage from, these things. He's got a full health tinker. He's got several full health footmen, right? Look at all this damage he's taking. He's down to 80. He's literally done it even worse this time. It's down under 100 health. I think the other one at least had maybe over 100. But anyways, like, once again, that's really risky. This one's going to get to mine for quite a bit, because I'm actually creeping now with peons and wind riders. I had so many peons before my attack. I want to, dang, I feel like I went up to 21 food, but yeah, but let's say I'm at 33 with this. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I had extra lumber workers during my tech, which means I'm going to be able to sort of pull these and sort of work it like the humans do with militia creeping, except they're not, obviously the peons don't have an ability to make them better, really, for creeping. So they're slow, they're not as much damage as the militia, so they're not as good at doing this, but they can do it, right? Because they're not really going to get prioritized targeting typically, unless they like surround a melee unit to such an extent where it can't really hit anything else. Then it will sort of automatically start swinging on the peons, generally. Stuff like that. So, but yeah, it gives me just a little bit more DPS. They do normal damage. The numbers don't look super impressive, but it is what it is. And now I have Envenom Spears. I'm tier 3. I get important to get the Fortified Burrow grade, because, like I said, there's going to be a window even once you hit tier 2, especially if you don't get a second hero. You prioritize leveling the TC and getting your, tier 3 and getting your bestiaries up and stuff like that. You won't really have a great army to fend off a good player's push. Now this guy's, his MMR I think was under 5,000. His micro is kind of pretty bad. His strategy was generally pretty bad. He didn't really adjust to what he was seeing me do, playing very aggressively. If he plays one base and, like, imagine he just built this earlier instead of, he crept this, put a tower or 2 up in his main and teched. This leaves, his tech speed is going to be quicker. He's not going to feed me up, 5 peasants or, now even more peasants. He built several scout towers over here, didn't get those finished, blah, blah, blah. He just feeds me so much. Now, with the shredder, he is going to be in a decent lumber situation, right? His tech is done. Once this returns, he's got 320-something lumber, so he's got so many workers on gold. He didn't really seem to realize that on the main base. So yeah, now he's got, he's sort of smartly added a second barracks and a blacksmith because he sees the wind riders. Right. Sort of the problem of going this against the TC though with Shockwave is I'm well on my way to level 5. I don't think he can really stop me from getting level 5. So without like sorceresses or dragon hawks for arrow shackles or flying machines to chase these wind riders down, he really doesn't have a good way to really fight my army if I'm playing properly, right? He's going to be running around with slow rifles. The rifles are on the ground, so obviously Shockwave will hit them. Shockwave does not hit Dragonhawks if they're not ensnared or webbed. It does not hit flying machines if they're not ensnared or webbed. So yeah, the rifles are going to be vulnerable to the TC. The flying machines would be avoiding the event of spears. Dragonhawks wouldn't, right? They're living targets. But if he were to make like 6 flying machines, or depending on how many wind riders I make, just continue to make flying machines. The fact that they're mechanical is a big deal. The fact that they're flying, the TC won't hit them. He's gone for an Archmage second. Not a terrible decision. I would say he can get water elementals, and he's a ranged hero, so he does offer a decent amount of anti-air with these rifles. But the problem with this situation for him is, without air units, I can sort of exploit the tree line and the line of sight. I'm going to be playing a little bit sloppy here. I don't need to engage him at all. I have vision, right, of everything in his base. So, got the TC over here going on his expo. He can't be in both places at once. He can't. If I'm really microing properly, he should never be able to kill these units with these rifles, right? It should force him to make either a workshop or a Griffin Aviary. He has a Sanctum, so sorceresses and or priests are not a terrible decision. Priests good at healing, good at sustain, pretty cheap, right? You can get like 2 priests for 4 food, 170 gold. I don't know if it's 20 lumber or 40 for a pair of them, but anyways, he can sort of make an army that can engage me on open ground relatively well here. The problem is I don't have to engage him that way, right? I can sort of take advantage of the vision constraints and the movement constraints of the ground units around his base. The towers don't move either, so I can do the same thing with the towers, right? The towers are completely stationary. All I have to do is really pick the right angles to kite his, workers, and every hit I get on them, I think Inventive Spears does like, oh my gosh, I think it does 4 damage for, is it 5 seconds or 8 seconds? For some reason, I want to say it's like 20 or 40 damage total, just from one hit on a target. But I'm not 100% sure on that, so it's whatever the math says. But I mean, it does add up, as you can see, right? He's got a lot of damage stuff. It doesn't affect the shredder. So I should have swung, or I should have been looking for this shredder. I don't know if I didn't see it. I assume I just didn't see this, right? Because if I would have saw it, it would have been a priority. It's way out in the in the open down here at the bottom. He needs to leave that right here. But there were air units over here, so maybe it was okay for him to sort of keep him bound, sort of away from the air. But but yeah, this is the problem. Anytime he actually is harvesting lumber, there's a good chance, even right here, if I just come from this angle or this angle, really any angle at the bottom, he doesn't have covered, right? But if he's up here, I can probably hit him from over here. If he's up here, over here, I can keep the range and just kite him. And like I said, wherever the trees are, the towers. I mean, literally, if the towers are like up against the tree line, right? Then they may be able to cover it, but then they're not going to be able to cover like all the buildings. So it's generally not going to be the case that he has the towers like that. But against wind riders, you actually sort of want to a little bit, but then it's hard to defend the guard towers, because your units, like, no matter how many anti-air units he has, if his guard towers are like right here, I'm just hitting them from here, and the ground units aren't really doing anything. So he's gonna continue to creep. I'm just towered up. Oh my gosh, I have this sort of camouflage color for this particular map. I just go ahead and throw some totems up. I haven't really been macroing. I'm like, okay, I pretty much got this game in the bag. I've got two bases going. He's on 1 base. My hero is level 5, which is great for this army. All I really have to do to beat this army, actually, I don't even really need to. I just wanted to get, like, I was thinking about getting Bloodlusted Tauren, just because that's really scary against his army. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you can lose with Tauren versus rifles, right? If they have enough and they just kite you and you don't have a great way to sort of, chase them and punish them. If he gets a couple of sorceresses and he's just hitting and moving, blah blah, and then he gets Brilliant Sword maybe from creeping this or creeping whatever. Is this not going to give him 2? Oh, it's so close. Should have pulled his hero, but the Brilliant Sword is a big jump. But anyways, he's nowhere near. I mean, I guess he did hit level 4 there. But anyways, what I was going to say is, right now, even though I haven't been macroing, Shockwave, I have picked up a tiny Great Hall. Shockwave with a bunch of gold, as long as you have a shop and you're tier 2 or 3, you can just dump your gold into, and maybe even get multiple shops, right? I can literally just dump my gold into heal potions and mana potions for Shockwave, and his sustain won't really be able to keep pace, right? He's got 2 priests only. That was a little bit sloppy. I didn't need to bring the air units in here at all. Look at this Shockwave. Boom. Hits most of his units. That was one single Shockwave level 3. Yeah, he's healing him up, but he can't heal everything up. If he has 2 more priests, but look at it. Look how much damage it does. It's crazy. I want to say the damage cap might be like 2,400 or 2,700. So it's crazy. He gets a little bit sweaty, and I'm going to say, I can see your desperation. He was body blocking me with that water elemental, right? Which is like, he knows one more Shockwave is potentially going to be devastating. I mean, he could split these. He could have ran some of these this way, but they would have run into air units. They could have run some, but it doesn't. The TC, he doesn't have anything to stop the TC, really. Body blocking aside, he has no sorceresses, he has no MK. He doesn't even have cluster rockets with the Tinker, so. And now, boom, level 6. What is he going to do, even if he kills this TC, which has another 2.5 or, 2 and 2/3 mana worth of shockwaves? He's got, even if he kills it, it reincarnates, right? So I can literally just AFK into his base, throw all the shockwaves, hit whatever, and then when I revive, right, I'll be able to throw more shockwaves because he comes back with full mana and full health. So drop the Tiny Great Hall, kill that because it could be a mechanical critter. Probably not, right? I mean, if he's got an expo there and towers there and blah blah, it's like, and what am I going to expand there? Probably not very high on his list of possibilities. But anyways, let rip another shockwave. It would have been smarter. It would have been smarter for me to, not that it really matters now, I'm just going to demolish him, but it would have been smarter just to run like right here or right here and angle the shockwave through the gold line, but also through this line of of towers. If you see, there's 4 guard towers, and there's potentially 5 workers in that gold line. So I can get damage on all the towers and all the workers, full damage on all that stuff, right? Yeah, I wouldn't hit the town hall, but it's like the town hall has 1670 health. So, whereas the towers are at 500. They're not really, but like you're hitting look at I hit multiple, and just a few level 3 shockwaves just knocks that out completely. So yeah, and I can just keep buying mana potions and maybe invis potions or staff of teleportation or whatever, boots of speed, whatever. And honestly, I could just keep doing that the rest of the game. And it's hard, especially with the heroes that he ended up having. No MK, no Blood Mage for Mana Siphon. Sorceress would have been a little bit useful, but again, if I just get to his base, slow is only a minor nuisance. Having the either the Blood Mage and or the MK would have been stronger to sort of stun me and maybe get us around before I get to the base or something like that. And then Mana Siphon to sort of maybe drain me of enough mana where it's not real. I mean, especially if he gets level 2 Mana Siphon, that would be a level 3 Blood Mage, but which is, as a third hero, is unlikely. Even as a second hero, he actually never got to 3 on the Archmage. I think he could have if he would have managed his experience a little better, like moving the Tinker out of the way when he's creeping, so he could get level 3, 4. In this case, it would have been extra level of Water Elemental probably, but possibly if he's Blood Mage second, Mana Siphon. If he's MK second, Stormbolt most likely. But yeah, he doesn't really have a great way to stop me from doing that. And really, no matter what he gets, if I get level 5 or 6, right, I can literally, especially if I have an Expo running in tower and stuff, he has to have a way to pressure me to stop me from doing the shenanigans, right? Alternatively, maybe he has 3 arcane towers in his base or something like that. Maybe some spell breakers and walling his base, right? sort of make me figure out ways to get in position to hit those shockwaves, right? He can build his base in such a way to, either force me to staff in or Zeppelin in, but that's always a possibility. It's not like, ooh, just wall the base and there's no way I can get in. I could get a potion, I could get a staff of treasure, teleportation. I could get a Zeppelin from the two goblin labs on the map, and then just Zeppelin my way in. And then if his base is walled off, now he's got to figure out a way to get inside of his base and then possibly get outside of his base. Again, there are ways to do this. It's not like, especially if he's a blood mage, he can just flame strike the trees open, right? But if I get in a TC and a Zeppelin, drop him in the back of his base, is he going to town portal his entire army to defend that? Even if he did, that would just bring him in range of a bunch of really strong shockwaves. He does have rifles, so I have to be very careful. But if I just jump back in the Zeppelin when he TPs, flies away, he's burned a town portal and is essentially sort of taking himself off the map. And especially if I'm on 2 base and he's on 1 base. Well, I mean, the longer that's going on, the easier and easier it gets for me, typically, if I'm using the gold properly and sort of keeping some kind of pressure on him. So he's not just out creeping me and massing up like mortars or something and I'm not paying attention, or tanks or something or whatever. But, because tanks, human does have a fairly strong weapons against these cheesy strategies, right? Now you think about, well, mass raiders is cheesy and mass bats, and that's kind of annoying. And massing wind riders is kind of annoying. Just running in with a TC level 5 or 6 seems kind of annoying, right? Kind of cheesy, whatever. But if I mass wind riders, humans got lots of options, right? You can mass fly machines, you can mass tanks. Tanks suffer the same downside of rifles and priests and guard towers, right? Tanks are slow and they're ground units, right? But hang on a second.